welcome to Golden Speakers Toastmasters Club of Fairfield. Great to see y'all coming out tonight, and it is my honor to introduce our president of tonight and always, Rob Whitaker.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. Welcome to Toastmasters meeting on Tuesday night. We actually start at 7:30. Right now it's 7:45. We have two guests tonight. I would like to ask them to stand up. Amanda and Monty. And I'd like to ask if at the end of the meeting you would make a comment on what you appreciated about the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Every Toastmasters Club shares the same mission. The mission of a Toastmasters Club is to create a positive learning environment. Thank you. How are you, Bert?
I'm doing well, thank you.
That is mutually supportive. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm great,
Good.
thanks.
Which in turn, how do you do?
How do you do?
Creates the opportunity for people to develop oral speaking skills and leadership qualities. This leads to, everybody knows this, what is it?
Self-confidence.
Self-confidence, very good,
And
self-confidence.
personal growth.
And personal growth. This week I did have another viewer actually come and speak to me at the pool. They will remain anonymous. They said they saw me on TV
Again!
and they want to come, but they're tongue-tied. I told them we could help them with that.
Yes.
So please come. Viewers at home, we have all kinds of devices to help you be able to speak better.
And to remove your tongue.
Never mind the man in the back. Now, tonight,
We got another guest.
We have a dignitary here.
oh,
And we have a guest on the other side, too.
okay. Sally, would you like to stand up? This is Sally's second time here. Thank you for returning, Sally. Welcome. And our guest in the corner, our old familiar guest, Don Wadley. Don Wadley. And for people who have been away on trips, traveling like John Loros, or taken away by work that suddenly comes up, the contest is next week. Feel free to call or email me if you have any questions. I have sent several emails out lately, and I brought some cherry tomatoes to reward the people that actually read my emails.
Wow.
And I encourage people to please take note. I'm being very careful to only send out information that's absolutely necessary. Now, our treasurer, Art, has a brief report for us. Art, could you come up to the lectern, please?
Thank you, Rhonda.
At this point, I would like to turn the meeting over to our chosen Toastmaster of the evening. It is a lady tonight. Please help me warmly welcome Stephanie Chambers.
So tonight's theme is creativity, and the quote that you may have read is, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have." It's quote by Maya Angelou. So now I'll introduce the role players for tonight. We have Satish as timer. Can you explain that?
Hi. So my role tonight is to keep time and keep track of everyone who goes up to the lectern to speak. Table topics are 1 to 2 minutes. The green light is turned on at 1 minute, the yellow on 1 minute 30 seconds, and the red is turned on 2 minutes and remains off until the end of the speech. Table topic speakers need to speak at least for 1 minute to qualify for the votes. Prepared speeches are usually 5 to 7 minutes. Today we have one icebreaker, which is going to be 4 minutes, green, 5, minutes, yellow, and red at 6 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes goes like this, 5, 6, and 7. And we have one extra advanced speech today, which is going to be 8 to 10 minutes. So 8, 9, and 10. And at the end of the meeting, I'll give you a report. Thank you.
Now we call on our art counter, Art Atkinson, to read us.
In my role as art counter tonight, I will be taking tally of any sounds of words that we use to fill space in between thoughts. Words such as like, you know, so, but, and, I mean, well, and some other personal variations that I'll notice and make a note of. And I'll give a brief report at the end.
Now, Kurt, you could explain what the grammarian does?
I am the grammar girl for the evening. Thank you. The word of the day is appropriate. It is not a new Apple product. It is a word called irony. Thank you very much. An example of irony means something opposite or different than what it's intended. It dates back from ancient Greece. Elrond used irony. He was a comic underdog, and he used it to triumph over the boastful Alazan. So this is where the word comes from. Example is, man, when preparing for bloody war, will orate loudly and most eloquently in the name of peace. And that was by Alan Moore, published in 1987. I'm going to listen for dangling participles. Here use like versus as, but really good uses of language, maybe some awkward uses of language. And tonight we're going to raise the bar because not only we have irony as a word, let's see if people can incorporate the concept into their speech. How's that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We forgot to give the time for the evaluators.
Excuse me, I'd like to add one more thing. Evaluations are 3 minutes. The green light is turned on at 2 minutes, the yellow at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the red is turned on 3 minutes and remains on until the end of the evaluation. All speakers and evaluators have a 30-second grace period after the red light is turned on. Thank you.
And later on, we'll be hearing from Cindy Traynor, who's going to be the general evaluator tonight, and from Don Wadley, who's going to be our joke master. And Jean Sutton Craig's going to help us as the ballot counter.
Yes, and I'm standing in for Dan. You know, Dan has been encouraging everybody that has a role to have their competent leader manual. Does everyone who has a role have their competent leader manual here? Please raise your hand if you have it. And secondly, have you given it to someone so that you're getting evaluated? For example, I've given mine to Art, so he's been evaluated. Does anyone need an evaluator for their role who has their competent leader? Okay, Cindy and Jeff need evaluating. So someone who's feeling like they could do a little multitasking, Cindy? Okay, is there another? Okay, great. This way we're always making sure we're getting maximum credit. Thank you, that's my job there.
I bet Dan's preparing for his big show tomorrow night, right?
He is.
Jean.
Thank you.
And now I'll call up Jean Sutton Craig, who's still with duty tonight. She's also the table topics master.
Aha, a bag. For those of you that are new, we have some guests, and I've already encouraged them to feel free to participate. Just know that this is an opportunity to practice impromptu speaking. You don't necessarily know what's going to be coming, but that's the workout. You do have up to 30 seconds before you start talking to think, organize a little bit in your head if you like. so that you can come out. You don't have to just start on the fly. All right? Tonight's topic is creativity. The Toastmaster magazine, I am so into this episode or this
Issue.
That's you can tell I like movies. Anyway, exercising the mind, because I really like exercising. Does everyone, people that are Toastmasters, have you had a chance to take a look at this? It's really awesome. I would highly recommend it. So I'm taking off of that. And there's a section called Brain Lifting. And it's a crash course in creative fitness. So we always know Toastmasters is about helping us get exercise, but you're actually getting exercise with your brain. And one of the elements here in terms of boosting creativity, I'm getting to this, in this bag, is to make connections. There's 3 things in the article: make connections, consider different perspectives, and use your imagination. I wrote a bunch of questions and I ran them by Dan. He said they were way too hard. Okay. Dan's my husband, by the way. You know I don't usually shrink from that kind of thing. However, we did have fun. We're going to go back. We're going to make it a little simpler. We're going to focus on making connections, because that's how new things can come together. You take this, and hey, do they connect, and what comes out of it? So here in this bag, I have little baggies with 2 things in each one of them. I'm going to ask you to come in, pick up a bag, and I want you to look at the items, and I want you to think of an invention or a product or something that combines those 2 things. And then secondly, tell us why we would want to have that thing. In other words, give us a pitch on how that thing would benefit us. So features and benefits in a way. Okay, now you can segue, you can dodge the question, you can pick this out and start talking about your flower garden. However, in my book, you get more points if you don't dodge the pitch, you take it and you try to run with it, okay? Because that's more exercise, just saying. All right, now that I've totally scared you, who would like to come up and put their little paw in this bag? I'm going to go with, now if you don't have a roll, so that's where we're going to start, and just about everybody does have rolls. But Rhonda, you don't have a roll, do you?
Oh, I don't have a role. Well, I am evaluating like maybe one of our guests.
I think we're going to start with somebody who's maybe not like completely brand new, because I don't want anybody to die in this session. Okay, so you guys watch how this is done. All right, okay. Now this is actually a thing and a baggie.
Oh, the baggie is one of the things?
It's one of the things.
Oh.
So tell them what it is.
This is a kit to prevent fire.
Well, tell them what the 2 things are so they can kind of get the
Oh, well.
Oh, here, and let me take your hand and get out of your way.
Thank you very much. Step by step, teacher. Okay, I have a baggie. And I have a candle. And they are used together. When you're camping, it keeps your candle dry, so that when you're out in the woods, especially in this kind of weather, you want to always keep your candle closed in a plastic bag, because it might spontaneously ignite. You can't have any dry leaves near it, or any grasshoppers, because they'll chew through the bag and they'll rub their legs on the wick and start the fire. It's very dangerous right now for fire hazards. And this is something that's relatively cheap. It's lightweight. You can carry it in your backpack. You could even put it in your morning. You could use it to warm up your morning breakfast. You could put it inside your coffee cup and light it, and it'll warm up the coffee cup. That way you can have a new flavor of coffee. This one is vanilla. It's also very good to use before bed, under your head, as a neck adjustment. So it's a health product, and it helps you cook and survive when you're out in the wilderness. Everyone needs a candle and a bag, and when you're through with the candle, you put it in the bag and seal it to smother it. This is a self-contained item. Thank you very much.
Okay, next. Before I get big guns up here. You're a big gun. All right, we'll go with one. Tom, you come on up.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right, just get the little paw in there. Tell them what it is.
Madam Tabletop Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored, distinguished guests, viewers at home. What we have here in the magic bag is truly unforgettable. These are magic glasses. Now, when you wear these magic glasses, you get to see the very, very best of creation. Not the worst. The worst just kind of fades. They disappear. So the magic glasses are part of this. We also have a can of organic pumpkin. Now, the organic pumpkin is a reminder that if you wear the special magical glasses on Halloween evening, you can get to see the great pumpkin. Now, if you followed Charlie Brown over the years, I think it's Linus.
Yes.
He's always out in the pumpkin patch looking to find the great pumpkin. He doesn't care too much about Christmas or any of the other holidays, Easter. Now, he doesn't believe in the Easter Bunny, but he really, really believes in the great pumpkin, the giver of all magic gifts. If you have a youngster in your house, you need to buy magic glasses, and you want to make sure that you get them out in the pumpkin patch on Halloween evening so they can experience the wonderness of the great pumpkin. Madam Tabletop Master.
Time for one more. Okay. Wait.
Or-
Monty.
Yeah!
Okay, so let's go ahead and have you. Okay. All right.
So in this bag, this is a bag of memories for me. There is an apple, an organic apple for sure, because a worm has eaten into it. And then there is a red pencil. Now this is old school. You don't see this stuff anymore. So the story behind this that I can imagine is the pencil represents a check mark. Back in grade school, we used to get red check marks. We got some things wrong. And the apple was something to give to your teacher. It's an organic apple. Well, there's 2 wormholes in it. So reminds me of school. It reminds me of elementary school, studying for tests, getting things right and wrong, teachers, giving an apple to a teacher, a very classical example of an elementary school memory. And it's actually perfect for this time of year. Children have just gone back to school. Fall's coming. Autumn's just around the corner. Halloween's coming. Great pumpkin patches. I have one growing in my yard, actually. Just one pumpkin. and it's going to be the great pumpkin in my garden. So, fall, Halloween, education, school, good memories. Thank you.
So inspiring. How are we
You're
done?
done.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Timer, which of our table topics
Rhonda,
speakers
Tom.
qualified?
And Monty, all three qualified.
Great. Okay, so you can vote. Now I'd like to invite Alex Sakaya up to evaluate our table topics.
Yay!
All right, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, and the Table Topics Evaluator. Evaluating table topics is always pretty tricky because you can't really evaluate the content. It's on the spot. It's hard to really put together some great content on the spot. So what I'm going to evaluate is the strategy that each speaker used to handle the table topics, because I feel like that's something that we can all learn from. If we're in an impromptu speaking situation, if we have a strategy to handle that impromptu speaking situation, that's something we can learn. So I'll go through each person. Rhonda, you had the bag and the candle. Your strategy was to describe the item. And through the description of the item, you found humor, because you started adding funny descriptions. So that's a strategy you can use. You can start to describe the thing that you have in front of you, and that can lead to very silly things. My only recommendation for you would be to take 30 seconds before you start speaking. That is allowed as part of table topics. You can take 30 seconds before you begin, before the timer starts timing. And 30 seconds is a long time. You can wait, you can gather your thoughts for a minute, and then start speaking. And also, don't forget to greet the audience. Mr. Tom Trainer, the magic bag. Your strategy was to describe the item, but then you use the description to launch into a story. So you tried to tie it into stories. You had great enthusiasm. And at the end, you tied it all together with a lesson. So you had description, launch into a story, and then a lesson of that story. Very nice. My only suggestion for you would be to come out from behind the lectern. You could have talked, especially in a story format. It's nice to walk around, do a little more of that. Monty, very nice. Bag of memories. Your strategy was also to describe the item and then launch into a story. And I liked how you tied in personal analogies. So you went into, here's this apple, it reminds me, that was your transition word. It reminds me of this, and that can segue you to anything you want. So that's a good lesson for everybody to know. If you're in an impromptu situation, you can use that. My only suggestion for you would be, just as a protocol in Toastmasters, to greet the audience and give yourself a little time before you begin speaking. Thank you.
Well, it wasn't too ironical, was all. Now I'll start with the prepared speeches, and our first speaker is Scott Terry, and I'll invite John Lewis to introduce Scott Terry.
Yo!
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Tonight, Scott Terry will give project number 4 from this book, Speaking to Inform. And it is the fact-finding report. So what Scott's title is going to be is Predators and Abuse. And it's ironic that Scott Terry, being one of the sweetest people we have here, is going to give a speech on predators and abuse, but he has done some fact-finding. In his objectives tonight, he's going to report on a situation, an event, or a problem of interest to the audience, and then he's going to deliver to us factual information on that. And a special treat, we will have a 2 to 3 minute question and answer period afterwards. So you may, if you want him to expand on anything he talks about, you can do that afterwards. Scott?
Satish, give me a moment before we start. I just want to make a comment to the audience and to viewers at home. This is a difficult topic for many people. This is regarding predators and sexual abuse. If you would find this topic too stressful for you, there will be no stories tonight. I'm not asking when I ask for comments for you to give me stories, nor will I be telling any stories tonight. We will try and stick more to details and facts and the subject. This is going to be given to an audience of parents at a school with Seth in a month. And so this is the pre-talk to try and arrange all that. If anybody would find this topic too difficult, please feel free to leave the room for a few moments. And viewers at home as well, if this is too difficult, please feel free to relax. And I will be here afterwards as well. I'm a therapist, and I deal with these topics on a regular basis. Thank you. I don't believe in secrets. I'm a therapist, and I've been a therapist for almost 20 years. There's a thing called confidentiality in therapy. What we say has meaning and has purpose and is between us so that we can make a difference. But I don't believe in secrets. Secrets are what gives power to abusers. Secrets are what makes victims stay victims because they can't get out of it. I don't believe in secrets. Somebody had told Seth that they didn't want that they wouldn't advertise this talk at the school. One of the teachers had told them that. And the reason they said that had more to do with their personal issues of feeling like if we talk about it, then it's more likely to happen. Or it was uncomfortable to talk about, and the kids shouldn't know about this, and the parents should know about this. But the fact is, the more we don't talk about it, the more that it's likely to happen. We don't have to get lost in our conversations, but that doesn't mean we don't talk about it. I'm going to go back and forth in this speech between looking at some statistics that I'm going to read to you directly from various task forces around the country that have investigated this, and I will then be asking questions from the audience that we will write down, and you will be able to look at some of those responses. So I'm going to want some of your thoughts as we talk. We often are scared on the same topic of offenders reoffending, but on the same topic of secrets, when offenders are actually connected to their communities, they're less likely to offend again. A study in 2005 showed significant recidivism when offenders are connected to the community and work intensely in a therapeutic environment. I have to promote therapy because that's my world. Since most offenders are offended by someone they know, something else we'll get into in a moment, harsh penalties can traumatize not just the offenders, but the victims themselves. Sadly, others in the relationship realm of the victim and often turn against the person making the report. The problem is that it's not just the victim who's traumatized. There's something called secondary trauma, and that's the community, the people around that victim are also traumatized, and sometimes often worse because they feel more powerless to do anything regarding the event. In this community, one of the concerns we talk about is we're in such an open, spiritual, wonderful community, and a rural community where everyone is friendly. I've been here almost a year, and one of the most difficult things I still have is people waving at me as they drive. I don't know what to do. In the city, if somebody's waving at you, you duck. And I just came from Chicago, where I've been living. It's a very strange thing. And when we start thinking about this larger community as our extended family, on one hand, it leaves us more open to being abused by people. And on the other hand, these are lovely people that we should know and we should feel safe with. And so the question that I'm going to be asking you in a minute is, how do you know that you can trust somebody? How do you teach that to your children? How do you tell them that? But most perpetrators are acquaintances. As many as 47% are family or extended family. As many as 93%, that's 93% of all childhood sexual abuse cases, the child knows the person who committed the abuse. Approximately 30% of cases are reported to authorities. The reason I have my phone up here, today's Huffington Post, the top of the world headlines is startling percentage of rape admissions in Asia Pacific region. Just a simple statistic, 11% of men admitted raping a woman that was not their partner. When the rape of the partner was included, the proportion rose to 24%. We now get into, how do we trust somebody? So I'm going to ask you guys, how do you know when you could trust somebody? Because we've all made mistakes. And in essence, the really hard part as a therapist is not getting somebody to trust a partner again after some violation. It's really to trust themselves again. Because we've all made the mistake, haven't we? We've all been in a bad relationship. We've all had friends that were a bit unsavory. We've all made mistakes in everything from business to school, friends. So it's really not about trusting somebody else. It's about, how do we trust ourselves to know what's truth? So I'd like to ask you guys for some quick responses, and we're going to write some things on the board, which my...
Should we just write the other?
No. Well, we're going to write down just some simple lines of how do you know about trust. Thank you, random partner who I never met before. Thank you for helping me.
You can move it over there if you want.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that it could be part of the thing. Another point off. Yes.
Test of time, appropriate behavior over time.
So it's really about actions. It's not just, you said test it over time.
Yeah, just watching and over time seeing, and then at a certain point, yep, it seems trustworthy.
Okay, good.
My own physical or emotional response is enough. I don't have to justify logically an intuition, let's say, or an emotion.
How do you trust your intuition? Because you trusted your intuition before and you've gotten it wrong. So how do you know that you're getting it right this time? And how do you teach that to your children?
I think that it would be a combination of factors, but, so I'm not saying this as an isolated value, but one thing would be to trust your gut instinct, to learn to trust that.
To learn to trust your gut again.
Right.
And really know what it's saying. Good.
Check their Facebook page.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yes. To look online.
Ask for references from people that know them. Find other people that know them and interview what they're like.
Great.
Trusting myself is to look at, with reference to any particular situation, am I not allowing myself to think something or about something? And that's a clue, if I am catching myself doing that, that there's something here that I'm not trusting myself.
Excellent. Anybody else? Okay, let's get to the second part of this question, which is, what do you tell your child or a child that you're working with to be able to think critically? Because just like in school, you don't want them to mimic the answers. You don't want robots. What really sets a child to use their intelligence is to be able to think critically, to be able to question authority, to be able to question the concepts that they're given. How do you teach them to be discriminatory, to learn appropriate behavior, and from who, but not be paranoid? Because teaching paranoia is not good. So any thoughts on teaching children? You, random audience person.
To be questioning.
Like questioning authority, questioning the teachers, questioning, to be able to have a questioning mind.
I'd make them aware that not everyone is good all the time, and you have to be a little bit questioning of their motives and why they want to do certain things.
Excellent. Yes?
Keep them in good company, allow them to be innocent as long as possible.
Allowing them to be innocent is good, and in that innocence, but also be able to have them have both sides. To be able to be innocent and have that notion of questioning. Absolutely. Anybody else? Just a quick thought? Okay, great. And in conclusion, what we want to create is not a fight or flight, but seeking the answers from themselves and to not be afraid of the scary questions that we almost ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott. And now I'll call on Karen. Oh, sorry, could everyone take 2 minutes to provide Scott with some feedback, which is Lynette Vivakwa. And I'll ask Karen Naoki to introduce the speech.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. Lynette Vivakwa joined us about a year ago. She comes from Chicago, and she's living in Fairfield now, where she's joined family. She will be giving her icebreaker tonight. It'll be about 4 to 6 minutes, and the title is Welcome to My Life. Please help me warmly welcome Lynette.
Before I start, I have a pair of earplugs for the grammar girl. So he doesn't hear me. Good evening, Toastmasters, guests, and viewers. My name is Lynette Vivakwa, and welcome to my life. My life centers around 2 people that I started from, my mom and dad, a montage I made almost 40 years ago. Both parents, 100% Italian, born in the United States. My mother, now 93, the last living sibling of 7 girls, and when they were all alive, they all talked at one time. They never missed anything that was said. And 2 quiet brothers. My dad, my mentor, deceased 13 years, followed by a brother and a sister. In the late teens, I decided the title to my unwritten book was going to be How to Get There From Here. Wow, 2013, I'm here. So now I would like to take you back a few years through my journey and some memories. My name, Lynette, is actually French, means love. When my father was stationed in World War II in Australia and New Guinea, that was a popular name. So he decided if he had a daughter, that would be the name. So here I am. Born and raised in Chicago, I attended Catholic school, grade school. Went on to Maine East High School in Park Ridge and graduated one of 1,000 students, largest graduating class, 1 year after Hillary Clinton. My only regret is I never got to meet Harrison Ford, and maybe I would have been discovered. I come from a large, very large family, as I said, with my mother and my father, they're sisters and brothers. 2 sisters married 2 brothers, 21 first cousins, and approximately 50 second and third cousins. Very traditional family upbringing, very close-knit family. We did so many things together as far as birthdays, parties, holidays, picnics. We even traveled to resorts together, and we would have a wing of 20 rooms. It was fun. It was fun. After going to college at Wisconsin State University in Whitewater, I got married, had 2 sons. 10 years later, I got divorced. My main objective after that was setting my 2 sons on the right path in life and going back into the workforce. So I was drafted into the family business, the second business, the travel agency. So I got right into it. I loved it. I liked planning and organizing trips. And we did the airfare for groups such as the Veterans, Mary Kay. We also did the airfare for prospective purchasers traveling to 4 destinations: Costa del Sol, Mexico, Spain, and Hawaii. 1976, I may have sold you a trip to Honolulu. 1 week hotel and airfare, $299. Also, 1 week, Chicago to Honolulu, 4 nights in Honolulu, 3 nights in Maui, $349. Today, I don't think you could get to Nebraska. So, after that, I followed my family into real estate. So that's always been the 2 main businesses, both my dad and my brother. I followed suit with real estate and also on into the mortgages. But I'm going to go back a little bit, and it's really hard to start putting everything, into a few minutes' time. And I enjoy dancing. I love music. I'm straight monotone, can't sing worth a dime, but I can dance. I belong to 2 jitterbug clubs in Chicago, traveled to a lot of different conferences. In fact, I was dancing on a barge in Memphis, and I was going to ask this one fella to dance, and thank God I didn't. He led the dances for the Summer Olympics in Atlanta. You know what? Thank goodness. But I had fun. I just love music, and the 2 most important things in my life, my sons. My one son, director of marketing for Cambridge and Fairfield, travels all over the United States, and I've heard is a phenomenal speaker. I haven't been privileged to hear him because a lot of their talks for financial planners are private. My son Frankie is a seasoned mortgage underwriter for Bank of America. And just when I thought my life was full, I have my granddaughter, Gabriella, who's 5. And now, I'm here, 2013, and I expect to run into a lot more endeavors, new challenges. I'm happy to be in Fairfield, and I'm happy to be here with the Toastmasters. Thank you.
Yo!
That's a wonderful icebreaker. So now everyone, we can take 2 minutes to write some comments for the net. And now for our 3rd speaker, I'd like to introduce Jeff Shipley to introduce Rick Starr.
Yo!
So
fellow Toastmasters, it's my pleasure this evening to evaluate and introduce our third speaker, Rick Starr. Rick will be accomplishing project number 4 in the Competent Communicator Manual, How to Say It. The objectives for his speech tonight, which is titled Waterfalls and Scrums, will be to select the right words and sentence structure to communicate his ideas clearly, accurately, and vividly. Also to try and use rhetorical devices to enhance and emphasize ideas, and eliminate unnecessary jargon and use correct grammar. Rick is a longtime computer professional and will talk yet again about computers, specifically software development. So please join me in warmly welcoming Rick Starr.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. As Jeff said, I'm going to talk tonight about software development, a subject near and dear to all our hearts. And that's the use of irony. I want to talk about 2 types of software development. One is a more traditional type that's been used for decades, and it's called waterfall. The other is a more recent development, and it's called Scrum. First, I want to talk about waterfall. Waterfall development is done in steps or phases. For example, if the accounting department calls up the computer department and says, we want a new accounting system, the first step, or the first phase, is the computer department sends a team of analysts to talk to the accounting department to find out exactly what they need. And the analysts meet with the accounting department for a long time, and the analysts write a very thick book describing everything about what the accounting department wants. The analysts then take this thick book and give it to the designers. And the designers spend another great amount of time designing the system, and they too write another thick book. And this thick book is called How the Accounting System Will Work. The designers take these 2 thick books and they give them to the development team, the programmers and the testers. And the programmers and testers spend another great length of time writing the system. And finally, after much elapsed time, the accounting department has their new system. And the reason this is called waterfall development is that it's done in steps. And if you can imagine a waterfall coming down a mountain, where it flows down, lands in a pool, flows again, lands in a pool, flows again, lands in another pool. And this is analogous to the steps of development process. There's a couple of problems with this. You have to wait for the previous step to be done. So the designers have to wait for the analysts to be done. The developers have to wait for the analysts and the designers to be done. Another problem with this, it could take forever. Since we're designing and writing the whole system, it could take months, even years to deliver the system. More recently, another type of software development methodology was created, and this is called Scrum. And whereas the emphasis in waterfall is on planning, the emphasis in Scrum is on delivering software quickly that people can actually use. Also in waterfall, you have large numbers of people on many teams, and in Scrum you have a small team with very few people. And going back to the example of the accounting department calling up to getting a new system, in Scrum what happens is analysts go and talk to the accounting department, but instead of spending a long time talking about the whole system, they just talk about a small part. For example, one component of it, accounts payable, and maybe even one screen in accounts payable. Then they go back, and they go back to the small team, and the small team is about 5 to 7 people, and it has both analysts and developers on it, and they very quickly, in something called a sprint is a period of about 2 to 4 weeks, have something ready for the accounting department to look at.
And there's several advantages to this. One is the accounting department can look at it right away and decide if there's any changes. And also the accounting department and any other department gets usable software. They get something right away they can start using. They don't have to wait for months or even years to start using the software. The word scrum, it comes originally from a sport, rugby, and what it is, it's a play where the whole team huddles together for a moment and then disperses in different directions. And Scrum is the name of the software development methodology. It's also the name of a meeting that we have daily. So each Scrum team, once a day, to start their day, has a brief meeting where they get together, they talk about what they did the day before, what they're going to do today, and any problems they might be having. And this helps in communication. In fact, there's a title or a position in this process called Scrum Master. And that's my position at Cambridge. I'm the Scrum Master, which is by far the best title I've ever had in my life. Another thing that Scrum does is foster communications among team members. And sometimes developers, because it's such a mental process, tend to be more inward and don't have the best communication. In fact, I'm sure some of you have heard how you can tell the difference between an extroverted computer programmer and an introverted computer programmer. The extroverted programmer looks down at your shoes when he's talking to you. So that's the difference between waterfall methodology, with its emphasis on planning, and Scrum methodology, with its emphasis on delivering good, usable software. Thank you.
Now we'll take a couple of minutes and write down some suggestions. Okay, and now we're moving on to the part where we vote for the guest speaker. So if you could all write on your little slips of paper. Oh, did everyone qualify?
Not everyone. Lynette and Rick qualified.
Okay, so you have a choice of the best speaker between Lynette and Rick. Okay, now we're moving on to the evaluation portion of the meeting. I'll ask senior training to take over this section.
Role of the general evaluator, if I can get my tongue working right, is to run the evaluation portion of the section of the meeting. Now, the reason for evaluation is not to criticize and tell people, you could have done that better, you should have done this. That doesn't happen here at Golden Speakers. The reason for evaluation is to lift up the person, give them positive reinforcement, everything they did well. Slip in maybe 1 or 2 suggestions at most. If they're an excellent and very experienced professional speaker, maybe 3 or 4 suggestions for improvement. And then wrap it up with more good stuff they did well. Send them off with a warm, fuzzy feeling. With that in mind, I'd like to call up your first evaluator, John Laros.
Yes.
Madam Evaluator, Golden Speakers, honored guests, and viewers at home. Tonight, Scott Terry picked a very difficult subject. Not difficult for him because he's a professional, but difficult for everyone else to hear. And I think Scott did a very good job in warning us about what we were going to hear. His report, which he shared with us, will be given to a group of parents at a school. And he tried it out on us, which is good, his friends and his fans. I liked how he put feeling into what he was going to speak about, and that we were his test subjects. I'd like to go by the objectives and how well he did on the evaluation. How well did the speaker explain the purpose of the report to us? I think everyone knew that the purpose of the report was he was going to give it to some parents, and that his report was about how to identify a predator, and or how to trust your feelings in identifying a potential predator, and or how he doesn't like secrets, and that secrets are not a good thing to have when one is speaking about this, because secrets are what the predators hide behind. That was a very, very, very good objective. Did he use visual aids to show us the facts? Yes, he used the whiteboard, and his assistant wrote down the questions that people were bringing up. Did he give us enough information on which the audience could base a sound decision? He came up with some statistics on who predators might be in our society. That was very good. How prepared did the speaker appear to be for the questions that were asked? This is Scott's livelihood. This is Scott's knowledge base. He was very prepared, and he told us, as we asked the questions, sort of in a clinical way, what he would say to a parent, what he would say to a child. And I thought that was very good for us. How effective was he in answering questions from the audience? This, I would suggest that if we have a question and answer period, that we have a very definite question and answer period. You say, fact-finding with the report is over, please, are there any questions? I didn't feel that there was that break there, because there was some questions I wanted to ask, but I didn't feel I got the chance. It should have been 2 to 3 minutes. But I would have to say that it's ironic that a subject that should be talked about clearly is very difficult to talk about clearly, because the words are very difficult to find. But I think Scott did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Our next evaluator is Karen. I hope. Please welcome.
Greetings, fellow Toastmasters. Lynette, that was fabulous.
Woo!
You're obviously very comfortable with communication. It was polished. And the only thing I would suggest is now we get used to using the stage and presenting information. There's no problem with your speech constructions. But you came out front, and that's a wonderful start for a first speech. And now from here on out, you can start using the stage effectively. And even engaging the audience. And how we like to do that is making it 1 point at a time with one person at a time. Still, your eyes are up, and I really felt that you drew us in. You're obviously very comfortable with people who are ready. Excellent use of props. Next time, prepare ahead of time. You're welcome to ask for time to set up the stage so that you don't have to think about it. Once you're delivering a speech, you don't want to think about managing the stage. So we had the stand brought up front, so you could place the poster on there, and then you can just have your hands free. The final point, excellent use of delivering speech without notes. You had them there, but I felt like the paper was more a device for comfort. In fact, that was the only area where I could notice some tension or nervousness is because of the way you were rattling the paper. Otherwise, you would never have guessed. Well done, and I look forward to more speeches from you.
Our next and final evaluator is Jeff Shipley. Please warmly welcome Jeff.
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, especially Rick. I ran into Rick at India Cafe last Saturday, and he offered me $10 as a bribe for a nice evaluation.
And you took it too.
I wish I would have. I really wish I would have. Unfortunately, the bribe seems to have been an empty offer. And
There's your due.
so I'm going to evaluate your speech as best I can. Starting with something I really, really liked. You have a great speaking posture. Your poise is great. You came out here, you immediately got into it. There's no apprehension, no anxiety, no tension. You obviously knew your topic well. Very calm, pleasant voice. Very cool, comfortable, collected. Things that are very, very important for a public speaker. Your posture and your overall poise was fantastic. Now the objective for project number 4, and what I personally did is I had a really hard time with it too, is to use vivid descriptive words, to avoid jargon, to make points very concise, clear, and descriptive. You chose to speak about software development methodology, a topic I wasn't very familiar with, and frankly I don't know if it did the project justice. It could have, I mean, I think that was the main lacking. It might not have been the best topic is what I'm trying to say. Because yeah, I felt it was kind of heavy on the jargon. I kind of know what software is, not really know what software development is. When you go into software development methodology, I have a very hard time following. Another thing you did, I mean, in terms of using images with the words, you did a very good job when you talked about the very thick books and used gestures that really compounded your point from the analysts. I mean, that was very good. But possibly I kind of felt that the sentences and the explanations might have been running on a little bit. Could have been shorter, more concise. I mean, you did an excellent job explaining your point, but maybe not in as colorful terms as the guide would have suggested. Other than that, so it could have been used some improvements, as I feel you kind of boxed yourself in with your topic. But with the topic you had, obviously you did a very good job. Other than that, what I really, really like is your use of humor. When you did the introvert-extrovert joke, I laughed very loud. You had some other very funny points in your topic. Your last talk you did was very, very funny. So obviously you're very pleasant to listen to. It's very enjoyable. Although maybe there are other topics besides software to speak about. Not that it's a bad topic. I'm not trying to be, yeah, so I'm not trying to be a jerk. I know I just could have sounded better, but anyway,
I get it.
I'm really looking forward to more. And also the point that Karen made and that Ron Kerr did a really good job of, the one point with the eye, drawing people in with the eye contact, also could benefit you as well. Other than that, great speech, and thank you very much for your use of humor and everything.
Everyone's on a roll tonight. Humor and all. All right. Now you get to decide who to vote for best evaluator. Satish, who qualifies?
Alex, Karen, and Jeff. John did not qualify.
Alex, Karen. All right, welcome back. Now it's time for, since we've all voted, now it's time to introduce our role players and get their reports. So the first one is Satish Sabadati as timer.
Rhonda took 1 minute 25 seconds, Tom 1 minute 55 seconds, Monty 1 minute 42 seconds. Speeches, Scott 10 minutes 53 seconds, Lynette 5 minutes 50 seconds, Rick Starr 6 minutes 13 seconds. Evaluations, Alex 2 minutes 35 seconds, John 3 minutes 32 seconds, Karen 1 minute 30 seconds, and Jeff 3 minutes 27 seconds. Thank you.
And now our Art Atkinson, our eye counter.
This crowd tonight prefers and above all others. However, I do have a request. If you want to get credit for your ums and ahs, please enunciate clearly so I can tell which one it is. Teach, one and, Rhonda, 3 ums, 3 ahs, excuse me, 4 ands. Stephanie, 1 ah, 1 and. Bert, 1 false start. Gene, 1 ah, 3 ands. Monty has got his own select, he prefers so. 3 so's, 2 ums, 1 ah. Alex, 4 ahs, 4 ums, 3 ahs, 1 and. John, 4 ahs, and a false start. Scott, 1 ah, 4 ands. Karen, 1 ah, 2 ands. Lynette, 4 ahs, 5 ands. Jeff, 1 ah, 9 ums, and a yeah. Rick, 3 ahs, 4 ands. Cindy, a now. That's my report.
Yo!
All right. For Marion, Bert Chernowski.
Yo!
Thank you. Creativity. A lot of creativity tonight. As far as the word of the day, Stephanie used it, ironical. John used it twice, very strong, really clear. Talking about Scott, the sweetest person, speaking on predators and abuse. Rick also made it very clear that he was using some irony. But the irony of that was, you don't have to make it so obvious. Creative use of language. Rhonda, one of my favorites tonight. The grasshoppers will rub their legs on the I can't get that out of my mind. Gene, episode of Toastmasters. I can't wait to see it. Crash course in creative fitness. Tom invented a new word, wonderness. Monty, appropriate, bag of memories, and old school. Alex, content on the spot. Scott, we don't have to get lost in our conversations. And of course, the really one that we'll all remember, the people wave at you in Chicago. What do? You duck. Lynette, really good, vivid. Today I don't think I could get you to Nebraska. And Rick Starr, Scrum Master, best title of my life. And of course Jeff said you want to make sure that, talking about Rick, you don't want to box yourself in with your topic. That's my report. Thank you very much.
Okay, as if we haven't had enough humor tonight, please join me in warmly welcoming Don Wadley for the Toastmasters.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I don't really have a joke as such, more of an observation. And for what that, I'm going to ask you to, those of you that have it, to take out your current Toastmaster magazine, if you've got one handy. I know that there's one right there, this is there.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Please open it up to page 7. Those of you that have it.
You have it.
Could you help me out a minute?
Sure.
Read something interesting off of that column that you see.
Oh, an evaluator once told a speaker, "I disagree with every point you made, but you delivered a fine speech. You stated your case. Politics makes for strange Toastmasters friends." Don Waldley, ACB, Burlington Area Toastmasters, Burlington, Iowa!
It's a true happening. This was at Hilltop Toasters. I want to give you a little background on it. The fellow who gave the speech, his name was Fahim. Fahim is as far over in this direction as you can get. I mean, he's from Chicago, he's from the South Side. He is a very ardent Obama supporter. Chip is from Rockford. Fahim asked Chip to be his evaluator. Chip said, "You do not want me to be your evaluator." Fahim said, "Yes, I do." These two had a history. Can you believe that? Chip got up and made that statement. And he made it very clear. Absolutely disagree with everything you said. Damn fine speech. That's what I want to make sure that we do in our evaluations, what Chip did, is that make sure that whatever you are looking at and as you're making your evaluations, evaluate the presenter, evaluate the presentation, not the presenter. And make sure that you separate those two. And that's what makes, part of what makes a healthy club.
Go!
Having been a member in this club maybe 10, 12 years, I've only heard maybe 2 or 3 times where an evaluator came up and said that the topic was good, but it could have maybe fit better in a different part of the manual. But remember, that is just the evaluator's opinion. None of us here are professionals. None of us get paid for evaluating. So it's just your evaluator's opinion. And when you read through your evaluation forms, you may find other people who think differently, but that's the human condition. Now moving on. Uh-oh, it's my turn to evaluate your evaluators. First, I'd like to say, Bert, I really enjoyed you raising the bar with your grammarian's role this evening. You chose a great word. I guess it was a tough one. Only 2 or 3 people used it, maybe. I'm struggling to use it now. All I can say is that it was very ironic, the word that you chose. But as far as using my sentence and just showing the irony, you'll have to guess that. Jean, I liked your table topics. You did props. And props, wow. I mean, I've done props before, but it was only, pull the object out of the hat and then talk about it. But you put a whole new twist on it. That was great. I appreciated it. Did our table topics people have fun tonight? Yes, great. Great job. Thank you, Jean. Alex, table topics evaluator. I like that you began with an explanation of your evaluation. You talked about strategy, which is new to me. You gave Rhonda a good suggestion to use her 30 seconds. You summarized what Tom talked about. You suggested to him to come out from behind the lectern. And Monty, you gave 2 suggestions. My suggestion to you, Alex, as an evaluator, is to demonstrate when you give someone a suggestion, if it's appropriate. I believe you were behind here most of the time. And when you said to
I was
Tom?
trying to be ironic.
Then please, by all means, come out from behind the lectern. Demonstrate what you want to illustrate to the people you're evaluating.
In my mind, he did.
You did. Oh, good. Good. That means you're effective. People got it. Come out from behind the lectern and show what you need. Now moving on to our speech evaluators, John Laros. Kudos, you gave Scott a lot of kudos for his introduction, and that was good and probably quite necessary. And you went by the manual. It's always best to do that. You congratulated him, you congratulated Scott on his style and his topic, and you gave suggestions to him. My suggestion to you, John, and it's one I struggle not to follow, or that's ironic, the one I struggle not to do is to retell the speaker's story in your own words. That's a tough one when trying to evaluate someone, to try not to also incorporate a lot of their own story, what they've told into us. I know, I'm old. Karen, you came out in front and you demonstrated what you wanted to talk to Lynette about. But remember, you have 2 to 3 minutes. So as you're going along with your evaluation, you can, if you realize that you're not really filling out the amount of time, try to find more things that you can positively reinforce your speaker with. And it is tough to look for some suggestions for improvement. And I'm going over my 30 seconds. Jeff, I will talk with you after the meeting. I'd like to turn this back over to our Toastmasters.
Now we're up to the fun part of the meeting where we give out the awards and prizes. So, drum roll, I'll announce the tonight is Monty.
Yay!
Thank you. I think you guys want some dues. We probably have a convert. I hope to see more of all of you.
All right, good. Take that to work. It's part of our marketing campaign.
Now, drum roll for the best speaker.
All right. Yeah.
Of course, I hope you take this to Cambridge.
I will. Thank you.
Yo.
Scrum Master.
Best evaluator. That goes to Karen and you. Now, to close the meeting, I'll hand.
You got a few ribbons, not all of them, but part of them are up there.
Sorry. One for Lynette. And to Rick Starr for speech 4 of how to say it. So now to conclude the meeting, I'll hand this back to our esteemed President from the
Yo, yo, yo.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, what an excellent meeting. And Tom, are you giving me the signal for something?
Do them first.
How? Now, we will hear from our guests. Please stand up. And if you have a comment on something you appreciated in the meeting, we'd like to know.
I thought it was very entertaining. I wasn't for sure what to exactly expect, and I thought it was a great way to spend an evening.
Thank you, Amanda.
My pleasure.
I think I can second that, and this is my first time coming to the club here, but I can tell it's a very positive environment, and I look forward to coming and seeing you more often.
Yay!
Thank you much. You might teach us a few things. Thank you. Sally, would you like to comment on anything tonight? Thank you. And guest Don, thank you. Okay, we are running a little late here, and there are some things I want to cover with you before we close for the evening. Next week is our fall contest, our wonderful humorous speech contest and evaluation contest. We have some excellent speakers. I want to let everyone know that you will be receiving the time agenda this week via email. For tonight, it's important that you know you arrive at 7 next Tuesday. Especially contestants and judges for the briefing and role players. I would like to ask our contestants if anyone has any special setup. You have a special setup. Would you please email me or talk to me afterward, Bert? Thank you. And it's important to be on time. If you're late and you're a contestant, you miss the briefing. You can come late and still be able to speak. However, you have to be in the door and hand your eligibility form and entry form to the chairman, which is me, before I'm announced and the contest begins. So please be on time. And for people who are going to bring refreshments, actually we don't bring refreshments next week. It's for the area club when we host our guests from Burlington. That is October 1st, is our Area 92 contest. And I'd like to ask how many people could come about 6:15 and help set up the room.
6:45.
At 7:15, thank you very much. Okay, great, we have a team, excellent. That is it tonight. I had cherry tomatoes for people who read my emails in the last 2 days. Thank you very much for an excellent meeting. We adjourn until next Tuesday at 7:15.